March 24th City Council meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. Join me if you can, standing for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, we thank you for another day and thank you for the opportunity that we have to serve this community. Just pray that you will guide our conversations and discussions and decisions tonight to do what's best for this island community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Nicole, you want to do roll call?
Absolutely. Councilmember Cohen?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Streetman?
Here.
Councilmember Goshen?
Here.
Councilmember Ward?
Here.
Councilmember Pierce?
Here.
Councilmember Carroll?
Here.
Councilmember Miller?
Here.
Mayor Pounds?
Here.
You have a quorum?
Thank you, Nicole. First item is presentations, beach renourishment bid results. Stephen Trainum from CSE is here. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Mic's on. Yep. All right. Well, thank you for having me down. It's good to be here and be able to present a very favorable bid opening that we had for the nourishment project last week. I'm not sure what questions council may have, but we had 5 bidders, which is great for these projects. We had the Callan Marina is a group out of Texas that has never bid on a project on any of our projects on the East Coast before. It apparently was a very favorable time for cutterhead dredging. They were very eager to get this work in the summer, and council made a good choice in moving the project schedule up to take advantage of that. I would say we had 3 bids that came in below the anticipated project budget, significantly so. The low bid was Marina's Construction. They are based out of Charleston. They are a relatively small, or they're a smaller company compared to some of the other ones, but they have done a lot of work in South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. They've completed several projects with CSE before, including Folly Beach County Park, Edisto Beach, Debadoo Beach, South Litchfield Beach, Pawleys Island. They've worked in Wilmington, they've worked in Savannah River. They have 2 cutterhead dredges that are capable of doing this type of work. One of them, the Savannah, is the one that we've worked with several times. The Wadmalaw is a larger dredge. And so they are a very capable, competent group. They're very eager to do this project in their backyard. They basically weren't going to let anybody underbid them. I spoke with representatives from a couple of the others that were also very eager for this project. They thought it was a very well put together project. Their quote was they didn't see any holes where they would be losing money in it. It was a good pumping distance. The fill sections were good. The summertime weather construction window was great for them. The technical specifications and their ability to kind of build the project efficiently was attractive to them. So Norfolk and Great Lakes both had what I would consider very viable bids as well for the full scope of the project. Any particular questions on the bid results or any of the contractors?
I don't know if I have a question, but I do have a comment. It seems like the one, I mean, first of all, these are amazing, amazing numbers.
I'll just say that we haven't seen bid prices like this, in 20 years for mobilization, for the unit cost pumping. When you get really large volume-wise cutterhead projects, you can get numbers below $10 a yard. But with fuel prices the way they are, and with the mobilization inflation that we've seen in recent projects, projects are going on for close to a net of $20 to $25 to even $30 per yard. We are seeing a net of about $8.59 per yard for this project.
Yeah, it's amazing. One of the things I was going to comment on was the standby time, and that seems like a real difference to me on the different bids. $35,000 for Mirnex versus $215 for Great Lakes. There's some big differences there in the case you'd have some delay in the project based on the permit or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that standby time would only apply once the project is actually started, the whole project is contingent on permits. So if there's a delay in permitting, that's not something that's going to be on us. But if for whatever reason the city told the Marinex that they had to stop working, not weather-related, mechanical breakdowns, anything like that. So if there was some kind of internal,
No, I was just talking
Yeah.
more about the state. If the state came along and said something related
like
to
a
the permit, you
permitting
need to
issue.
stop
Right.
until we, until we.
yeah,
look at
and
this or
that
something.
is mostly a function of them being local. I think it's not going to,
Yeah,
kill them, but they,
it's great.
What is tilling?
tilling is after the project, the Fish and Wildlife Service generally requires the beach be tilled, which is basically plowed to a depth of 36 inches to soften the sand so that sea turtles have an easier time laying nest. That's kind of it's a very old standard that we try to work with Fish and Wildlife because it can be very disruptive to the beach because it really softens it where it's like a freshly plowed field and you can sink into it. So we're going to, hopefully the beach, when they pump it, isn't so compact that you have to do it anyway. But if there are areas that need to be tilled, we would try to minimize that because the turtles can nest in pretty compact material. So we want to be very sensitive to the turtles and make sure that they're okay, but we don't want to overdo it and make it a safety issue for the public.
So is that why Marinex is so much lower on that? Is that?
They just
more local
didn't want to
knowledge,
put cost
maybe?
on that. It's,
Gotcha.
they have the equipment in-house. That's probably their fuel cost to have it. And, they weren't going to be underbid. They weren't going to lose the project on tilling.
Stephen, does the cost of the sand or the proximity of the sand that we can get as they bring it up to the beach, does that play in any way with the cost of this project?
Sure. So the location of the bar area, as far as
Yeah.
how far do they have to pump the material, is a big factor, but also the actual material itself, the grain size, the shell content of the material, how much mud is in it, because they know that they're going to lose the mud. So if it's 2% mud, that's 2% more material they have to pump just to get the sand on the beach. The depth of face that you allow them to dig into the bar area is a big factor, and we were requesting 10 feet, which is a little deeper than previous projects in the state. We're trying to push that because for a couple of reasons. One, for project price, but also if with the variable sand quality that you have offshore, if there's good sand at 10 feet, you want to dig good sand. So when we have good sand, you want to dig as much of it as you can.
I want to let you know that I personally appreciate your efforts in putting these bids together and staying close to this. I think your advice, your influence had a lot to do with the way this came out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen, quick question and a comment. Any update on permits and conversations you may be having with agencies?
So the state permit, they're hoping to have issued by the end of March, and we are rapidly approaching the end of March. And then the core permit would come right after that. We spoke with that project manager last week as well, and she's aware and is kind of getting all her things lined up so that she can issue that permit as soon as she can after. But I would anticipate by the end of April, we would have the federal permit.
But Fish and Wildlife is still,
Isle Palms was the first community to be, our first project that utilized the programmatic biological opinion from the Fish and Wildlife. So they approved our form and review of that, which took the 6 to 9 month Fish and Wildlife review down to several weeks.
awesome.
Yes.
I was on unrelated issue with the Army Corps this week and said, waiting on a permit from you people, so we'll see. And I would echo Rusty, we were hoping all the stars were going to align on this thing, and I think your pre-work with Marinex and Great Lakes specifically got us here. So on behalf of this community, thank you for doing that. Other questions, comments? Douglas, anything from?
Stephen, I guess for the benefit of the group and for, you all won't be expected to make a decision on this until April, but we do know that there have been questions, comments about if the city and Wild Dunes Community Association wanted to take advantage of the ultra-low per unit cost, what it would take to do that. If you don't mind, just a quick kind of synopsis of how that would what would need to happen and how you expect that would happen.
Sure. So, kind of initially, our recommendation would be to award the full permitted project. We set up a base bid just to try to make sure that bids came back within the anticipated budget. But we always were looking to build, close to the maximum permitted project. So without a doubt, we would suggest to do that. The idea of additional sand at this price with this mobilization, we would recommend at least considering that and looking at where that sand may occur. I would say the northeast end of the island is the one where, just due to the rapid amount of erosion that we consistently have from year to year, that's where you're looking to try to buy additional time by having additional sand. The south end you could also consider. There it's actually a little easier because your berm's not so wide right now that it creates potential public use issues. One thing that we need to consider it's kind of a balancing act, because from the engineering perspective, as much sand as possible is a great thing. It buys you more time, more resilience during storms, and for favorable prices, it makes sense to do. Right now, up at the northeast end of the island, there are areas where we already have berm widths that are approaching 700 feet. So you have a 700-foot wide dry sand berm that you have to navigate across. We know that's going to erode back over the years following the project. If we extend that more and more, where we're looking at 900 feet, 1,000 feet of dry sand, that does provide the opportunity for some public use problems. You're having to carry beach chairs and children across a very wide swath of dry sand in the summertime. There's also, the further out you push sand, the more the ocean is going to try to focus on the corners of that, because you're basically building a block out into the ocean. So the corners may erode a little faster. That's, something you just can deal with, and it's not a huge issue. But you may also get ponding, because when you have a big spring tide or a storm event that washes over this really wide berm, water may not be able to drain out of it quickly, so you may have ponding for a couple of days, and I think I mentioned that before. We saw a little bit of that after the 2018 project, and especially in the areas where they tilled the beach and then it got saturated with water. It was kind of a soupy mess for a couple of days at a time. Over a period of a couple of months to a year or two, nature kind of develops some natural drainage pathways, and you don't see that as much. But that's something to make sure that everybody's kind of aware of the expectations of what that looks like the wider you build these beaches out. So we're battling the desire for as much sand as possible, but what the project actually looks like.
Yeah. What would be really helpful for me is the visual, and I don't know if that's possible, but if we could take, you do your drone pictures and you've got a lot of diagrams. Is there a way to take a diagram, or a picture at low tide, the north and the south, and then overlay the 1.6 million cubic yards? And then another one that says, hey, this is what it would look like. This is what your beach would potentially look like at 2.5 million cubic yards. And then we can kind of go from there. But I think a visual, I'm guessing with today's software packages or whatever tools you have, that might not be all that difficult. But is that something that you could provide to us so that we can kind of see?
Can show it in a couple of different ways, from plan view, section view, and then kind of more artistic interpretations of it.
1,000 feet walk or the night,
We also have post-project photos from 2018. The current fill plan isn't too different from what was done in 2018, so that would be at least a good starting point to see what did it look like after that. I know we have some photos from when we did have some of the ponding issue, so we'll put together kind of a summary of what that looks like.
So can you illustrate the others, or that's not possible?
Yes, we can illustrate that.
Because Stephen, your plans today have, the blueprint plans have base bid and full permit drawn out on it, I think, right?
Correct. Yeah, and we will provide a
go ahead.
revised set of final construction plans based off the amount of sand awarded that would eliminate the base quantity and kind of provide that final fill plan.
And Douglas, I guess to your question, so this bid for 21.47, I mean, that's full permit?
That's the full permit,
So then it's really
2.5 million.
just 2.5 million cubic yards. So it's really, to your question or comment, that's what will be in front of council. Do you want to buy more sand at the 752 or not?
Yeah, just for exercise, looking at a total $30 million budget at the 752 additional per unit cost, that's about a 1.1 million additional cubic yards of sand that could be purchased, up to that $30 million budget. I backed it off of 32 just to cover some contingency.
And this presents no problem if we decided to purchase additional sand, you don't have to go back and open up
So
bids again or anything like that?
You don't have to do anything with the bids based off the structure of them. Adding additional sand would not create a situation where there was a different low bidder. That potential exists in certain projects. That wouldn't apply here. You would have to get a permit modification to increase the quantity. Should be a very, very minor effort. If we elect to expand the area that's in our existing permit, which I'm not recommending at this time, but it's something that could be looked at, then that would require some more public notice because you have to notify the adjacent owners in that new land.
I would, instead of figuring out how much money we got to determine how much sand we can put on the island, I'd rather start the other way, at least as a base load, and say, what do you feel like it's going to take to get from where we are to a healthy beach profile that was determined in the Beach Advocates Committee last year, what
Right.
that picture looks like. And then, whatever that is, then we can make a decision. I mean, that's a minimum to me. And then we
Yes.
say, okay, do we want to put more based on this bargain that we've got? And what's the impacts of putting more? Pooling or certain areas. Some areas you may want to put more, some you may not, I assume. But I'd at least like to start with, what does that healthy beach, what does it take to get us to that profile that was determined in the Beach Advocates group last year?
Yeah, so the current project up to the permit volume gets us to that point, and it's in several areas more than that point. So anything in addition to that would be an attempt to either, and there's been communication with the new Beach Management Committee about changing what that minimum healthy condition was and making it a little bit more conservative. So that adjusts that calculation a little bit. But I agree with you, starting at that and then considering what does the actual post-project beach look like, needs to play a part of it. And I wouldn't suggest adding another 1 million yards of sand, at the Wild Dunes area. I don't think it fits.
Katie?
I thought that there had been some discussion that the bidding that we were putting out was on the lower end of that healthy beach ideal number. So this is the high end or the kind of the max.
It gets us the minimum healthy beach, and I think there may have been, some misunderstanding on what that term means, and rightfully so. It's kind of an abstract term, but that is the trigger point to say it's time to do nourishment. That doesn't mean that's the ideal beach that we want to see or the beach that we would want to see after a project. But this project the idea is it puts enough sand on the beach so that 8 years from now, then you still are above that minimum threshold, which is still a condition that is livable with dunes and
And that's what these
protection.
bids get us.
Yes.
All 2.5 million, you're saying,
Yeah. The
gets
full
us to
permit,
that.
Katie, to your question.
Yeah, Katie, I
that's-
think what you're thinking through is the base bid amount got lowered,
Yeah.
and there was some concern about that. But I think with these bids, it appears we're not looking at the base bid. We're looking at the total amount permitted. So
Okay.
we kind of deal with the
Yeah,
concern of
that's what I
going with
was-
the base bid
okay.
amount.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, the base bid is merely kind of a bidding tool, and the hope was never to actually have to do just the base bid. It was, let's maximize it, but it's more of an accounting tool.
Yeah, I think, the base bid was basically worked us up to the $32 million that we're going to go chase after, I think, or a little bit more than that. Yeah. I think that base, yeah.
With a lot of assumptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Stephen, good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Appreciate it.
So Mayor, just if I could, I guess to kind of get council thinking through next steps, the city is going to have dialogue and stay engaged with the Wild Dunes Community Association about the size project that the two entities want to accomplish. I think it would be useful for us, with a goal of having you all award a contract at your April 28th meeting, so basically a month from now. If we could have an additional conversation about what is the amount at our budget workshop next week, for you all to just tell the staff, which way, if you're looking at the full project as permitted, or some amount above that, or some other amount. We need to start getting coalesced around an amount so that we can actually award a bid at your next full council meeting.
Got it. And Steve, am I correct in assuming at the 2.5, at the 1.6, we were looking at 1.2 million cubic yards at Wild Dunes and 400,000 south. At the 2.5, we're looking at 1.7 million cubic yards at Wild Dunes and 800,000 at the south. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you.
And I will add, spoke with Marina, and their anticipated schedule would be starting the project sometime in June. That's, dredge schedules are notorious for changing, but that's the best estimate that they would give us, that they would be starting, fairly early in the summer.
Just one last thing, it's just gnawing at me, when you say starting in June, and we've got hurricane season starting in June and turtle season starting in May. So, how does that, I know you can't answer probably the first one, but have you?
Sure.
I'm sure you've done projects during hurricane season and.
Sure.
Well, we've done projects in
the
summer before.
First project, well, it finished in July before
Yeah.
the peak of the season. But regarding turtles, the contract includes full nighttime monitoring for sea turtles, and then we'll be working with the island turtle team for the daily morning patrols and any nest relocations. And that'll start, at the very beginning of the season, even before they're out there working. And working in and around turtle season is very common. There's a lot of protection measures included in the biological opinion and National Marine Fisheries Service conditions, DNR conditions that the dredger has to maintain regarding lighting and ropes in the water and all that kind of thing. So it's taken very seriously. Regarding hurricane season, it is just an unknown. If a hurricane is anticipated to impact the area, they will they'll tow the dredge into Charleston Harbor. They will try to, depending on the forecast of the storm, they will either remove some pipe and equipment from the beach, or they will stage it in an area where they feel like it's protected. And the way these projects are ran is, as they work on the beach, they survey every 100 feet. When they complete a section, they survey it to show that it's been built to the design. As soon as that section's kind of surveyed after the fact, then it's finished and complete, and they move to the next section. So if a storm hits in the middle of the project, then anything that has already been placed and surveyed is kind of paid and done. Anything that they haven't done yet would have to be refilled to the design condition. So they have risk of losing material in that. What generally happens, and it does happen when hurricanes hit, is you do a survey and assessment of the beach after the storm. You look at impacts, and you may want to consider doing a change order to address, areas that were impacted by that storm by adding additional sand.
And that does not count as standby time?
Weather is not, weather and mechanical breakdowns are not considered standby time.
It's really city-directed stoppage, right?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is citizens' comments. Donate. Next is approval of previous meetings minutes. We have city council meeting February 24th, special city council meeting March 10th, special city council meeting budget workshop on March 11th. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any edits, changes? Scott?
Yeah, I've got a few comments. On the city council meeting, I guess we got to go to it's page 5 or in the, page 7 in the packet. On old business, it says, given the technical complexity and significance of the beach and renourishment discussion, verbatim transcript has been appended to these minutes in lieu of a narrative summary to ensure the complete record is preserved. So I'm not sure how, like this decision's getting made, or and then followed on, there was like 25 pages of verbatims. And then if you go to the verbatims, it doesn't look like, I don't know if this was a software translation or something, but if you start, I just looked at page 1, and I'm going about 2/3 of the way down the page. It says, Councilmember Bogosian, also in future years, does this reflect the fact that some bonds are going to mature? Answer is yes. Councilmember Bogosian, is that village is going to come off? I think that's millage, but that's just one mistake on the first page. If I go to the next paragraph, there are multiple variations of the word ass in here. And unfortunately, my concern is that this is being presented as a official record, that we shouldn't be using this as the official record, and that if we, again, verbatims are great, I think, from time to time, but I think minutes should be limited to key points and decisions. And my request is that this entire document, the 20 pages, be pulled out, because it is not an official record, and if we want to say that something is going to be complex and make that decision, we can certainly refer them to the tape. So I cannot approve the minutes as presented, and I would ask that they would be redone and summarized with the key points and decisions of that conversation and represented at the next meeting.
May I?
Sure.
I did listen to it again. I'm sorry if I missed some things. It was done with AI, but I went back and listened to it again multiple times, twice, and so I do admit that there could be mistakes, and I'm happy to make those changes. However, I found the discussion to be extremely technical and a lot of details, and I felt that summarizing it, I was not going to be able to capture all of the details, and that it would be a lot of, he said this, he said this, he said this, and so it seemed to be better for the record that it all be detailed out. I was afraid that I was going to miss something because there were so many small details.
I appreciate that completely. I just think that if we're going to be transcribing and putting things out as official record, they need to be transcribed and certified. And to this extent, I just think that, those, if we're going to put something 25 pages of verbatims in something and consider it the official record, if somebody's reading this 2 years down the road, I think minutes should hopefully be, a little bit more concise and maybe stick to the discussions and the decisions. That would be my request.
And could we also not just direct, because we do have the actual audio, right?
Correct.
This wasn't when we lost audio.
No,
Okay.
I just did not feel that I was going to be able to accurately go back and get every single detail without missing something, without the whole record, without the minutes sounding like he said this and then he said that, and it went back. There was a lot of back and forth, and I was very afraid I was going to miss something that was a key detail. There just seemed to be a lot of detail in there, and it just seemed to be better to do that. I'm delighted to go back and listen to the entire thing again to make those word corrections, because I'll admit that I'm sure I missed some of those.
Well-
I understand your point of summary. I just felt like with the technicality of it and the importance of it, that it just made sense to keep it.
And one other addition I'd like to make, I think when we do something like this, and Nicole, I appreciate all the work you're doing. You're working very hard, and this isn't a knock on you, but without punctuation and things of that nature, we do lose context, and I think the official record is the video. So, I appreciate the attempt, but I think trying to transcribe 25 pages verbatim and make that understanding and make those calls of what the meaning is, if the subject matter may not be, totally understood, personally, I just don't think this is the answer.
Yeah, that's kind of what I feel like it would be better just to have the minutes be more basic, less detail, but then with the explanation that this was a very detailed situation, and please see the video, because, or listen, the audio is available, because that way we're not risking writing anything that's wrong, and you don't, it takes the onus off of you to try to translate what was said, and
So do you want me just to take the verbatim out and refer people to the video for the exact same reason, is what I'm hearing you say, rather than try to make a summary of a very technical discussion? What you would like me to do is refer people to the video and take the summary out.
Is that acceptable in the city clerk world?
is, FOIA requires very little in the meeting minutes, and this has come up. Some municipalities will incorporate in all of their minutes, the entire video of the meeting. But you've got to basically, it can be very simple meeting minutes. You don't have to put a whole lot in there.
I'm fine. I just felt like it was a more
Yeah.
accurate way to capture everybody's desires to have that technicality in there.
I
Jimmy.
appreciate that.
Yeah, Nicole, you mentioned about it, all this back and forth. There's way too much back and forth with council members. If we would go about just basic Robert's Rules of Order, where the council member has something to say, is recognized, speaks, and then that council member doesn't say another word until everybody else has a chance to speak, and then they get to speak one more time, and then the discussion's over, instead of all this back and forth and back and forth. And it seems like to me that we've been down the path of where several members of council kind of take over the conversation. So if we go more strict, like basic rules of order, Robert's Rules of Order, this would help the public and also Nicole's job.
Beth, were you? Sorry. Yeah. So Nicole, I guess moving forward, it sounds like we can shorten up your minutes.
I'm fine with that.
For you to try to capture all this would be, is not.
I mean, assuming that the audio is good,
expectation.
I mean, that's the one.
Indoor video, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it was important to me that everybody's technical details be captured. And I felt like that was the only fair way to do
Yeah.
that, was to make sure that it was verbatim, because
Good.
I was not going to be able to make them sound professional without it being a verbatim. So I will remove them and refer that section of the meeting to the video.
Bev. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Nicole, we do appreciate what you're saying, but, we want to make your job easier, I think, by doing this. And if we can do it legally, hopefully that'll be all right for you too.
I
I
was
appreciate what you do.
trying to make sure all the bases were covered, but I'll be happy to take it out.
Certainly don't want to make you go over it again.
Happy to do that as well. Either one is fine.
All right, so we've got a motion, I think, with amended.
How was it amended?
Yeah, do we have, well.
It'll just say
we're
the
taking-
minutes are approved as amended.
But the amendment would be to take out the verbatim and just say, watch the video.
Yeah, there was a discussion about the beach
Detailed
renourishment,
discussion,
and more
yeah.
details could be found at this location, and then
Yeah.
that could be done.
Right?
All right, yep.
Did we have a motion and a second
Yes.
to start? So,
We-
all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank
Nay.
you. Nay. Sorry, Rusty. Nicole, did you get that?
Yes, sir.
Next item is old business. Douglas, you want to take us through probably the first four at least. First is discussion of town hall format that's coming up on Thursday.
Yes, we have been preparing for the town hall meeting on Thursday. We internally have been talking about the different ways that you all could approach this. What we've kind of landed on and are proposing is we would have council at the front of the room. We've engaged Lynn Parati to be the MC, for lack of a better term. I guess moderator would be a better term. We would just have a quick introduction of some ground rules that advise people, line up behind the microphone, state your name, state your address, state your question. They would then just kind of fire away questions. We would expect council members, if you wanted to reply, you just make it clear that you were ready to reply. We also will be live streaming it. We've been advertising the ability for people to send in questions remotely if they choose to engage that way. We talked through different ideas about, and Mac had an idea, and Lynn actually had a similar idea of breaking the council into groups. We felt like we would lose, you wouldn't get the benefit of what was happening at other people's tables, so we felt like this was a good format for our first attempt. Going forward, it might be that you would prefer to have just casual conversations that aren't necessarily captured for the rest of council or for the rest of the audience that can watch it. Other than that, I think I think we're expecting a good turnout. The capacity for the room is 200 people. I'm guessing we'll probably be at capacity. And we'll see how it goes. It'll be new territory, I think, for all of us, so we'll just see how it goes. Any
Question? Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
questions, concerns, or points for us as we kind of get ready? It is a very, I guess, intentionally kind of a loose thing. We're very used to agendas, ground rules, all of that, so it's a little bit unique for us, so open to any comments or suggestions about
Rusty.
that.
Yeah, thanks. Douglas, one of your first statements there, you mentioned something about us all coming in. Are we being encouraged not to arrive early?
No, I'm sorry. Just that you, no. But when it comes time.
I mean, I'm planning on being there early.
Yes, that'll be fine. We, just like a council meeting, we will expect that, with a few minutes before showtime, you take a seat at the front of the room.
Okay. And we'll be lined up like we are now.
Yep,
Ducks in a row.
yep.
Good.
So to
Love it.
speak. Okay, no.
Did you say that people have to sign up beforehand, or I
No.
misunderstood?
No, they don't.
Okay.
They'll be kind
No
of
sign
just
up.
like this, but a microphone in the middle of the, and you would just line up.
Line up.
You can, if you would like, to submit, and I think we actually have already received a handful of questions, and people will be allowed to interject questions, and we'll see how, we're going to have one person monitoring the comments, providing those to the moderator, and we'll kind of have to trust their judgment about when to interject that.
The online questions. or
The online
comments. Gotcha.
questions.
So like
Yes.
Lynn will read those?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
Jimmy?
Mr. Mayor, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules of order to hear from old business 5F, and also behind that, item 8A2, ordinance 2, second reading, ordinance 2026-03. Decibel limits.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Douglas, were you done with the town hall format before we go?
Sounds like it.
We are now. I think you are now.
We're on to the next one.
We're excited for the town hall. See how it goes. Be a little experiment.
So we're going to item 5F at this point, updating consideration of funding and implementation options for wage adjustments. This was a conversation at our budget workshop, will be a conversation at our budget workshop next week as well. I know admin committee is lined up on the 6th, I think, Scott.
Yes.
To have that conversation and continue. I know there's been evergreen conversations, so Douglas and or Scott on just an update over council. I just felt it was important to have a conversation before admin committee went off and did work, just to make sure we're all on the same page and we're going to.
Can I ask what the consideration was about?
I'm not sure there's going to be one.
Okay, I didn't know, because there was a tax, there's a tax schedule in here.
Just
and I'm
for information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should just cover that real quick before we get into the, so we're, just leave that alone for now?
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right. I mean, I can give you a quick update.
Either one.
I think we're on track, like we talked about before, for some April decisions. I think at the council meeting, we'll be able to have some firm recommendations. We have been working very closely and having a number of meetings with the Evergreen Group, and I think, Douglas, you can chip in here. I think we're making some progress on the versions and the variations, and I think we're really determining kind of where a good path forward. The path, I think, is going to be not just wages, but we're looking at totally restructuring the compensation plans. So we're looking at adding the incentives that we've talked about. I think those are being evaluated. I think Chief Cornett's is in very good shape. I think Chief Oliveris is working on some more iterations. So what we're also trying to do is not only look at wage treatment, we're also trying to make sure that the dollars are directed to where they were intended to be directed, and also that we can fully fund the incentive program so that we can be competitive with the surrounding communities. I think on top of that, we're looking at making adjustments so that our wage brackets are going to stay in tune with CPI adjustments. That's not happened in the past. So we've got, like I said, 3, 4, 5 different things that we're going to be looking at holistically to try to make sure that we are addressing the issue very proactively. And I think most importantly, what we're going to try to do when we implement all these and bring these recommendations forward is have a sustainable program so that it's going to take care of itself, it's going to be monitored, and we're not going to get in the same situation where we put a bunch of money in place and did a one-time treatment like we did 2 years ago, and then find out that we're going to be behind. We're looking at overtime allocations. We're going to be looking at all kinds of the different facets. So I think we're in decent shape to make the date for the April council meeting. I don't know, Douglas, if you're still feeling that way as well.
Yeah,
we're making good
so.
progress.
I think so. The only thing that I would just kind of, I guess, add to that is, when we had the budget workshop, there was talk about adjusting the millage to deal with a number of things, including wages, incentives, fringes, overtime, and we've just put in your packet the maximum clawback that the city could generate from the kind of pulling the lever as hard as you could is $930,000. In your draft budget, which again is subject to change based on the admin committee's review, the total amount for the things that have been identified is above that. So we don't have alignment in terms of the direction and the allocation now, but that'll be part of the work of the admin committee.
Jimmy?
The chairman just mentioned there was going to be consideration of CPI, Consumer Price Index.
So that is.
In my opinion, I heard it, but in my opinion, that's just not enough. It's not going to cut it. We have got to get ourselves in a competitive position with everyone else in the low country instead of just turning this turnover over and over. It just keeps churning, and we are hiring these recruits and we're training them, and then they come and work for a while and they go somewhere else for more money. That revolving door needs to stop. We need to take care of our employees, all of our employees, but especially our first responders.
Councilman Eward, you may have misunderstood what I said. And what I said was we're considering a CPI increase to ensure what typically happens with salary ranges is when the CPI comes forward every year, salary ranges move up with the CPI. We have not been doing that. So I'm not saying that we just apply a CPI. If you're familiar with compensation plans, what typically happens with salary bands is that they go up along with the CPI. We have not been doing that. So we've been basically stranding our salary ranges for at least a couple of years now. It's a completely different topic.
Well, that's encouraging news. Sounds like that you want to get on board with increasing compensation for especially our first responders. I'm glad to hear that.
David, did? I saw you, okay, sorry. Don't want to put words in your mouth, I just thought I saw you. And Scott, I think to your point, this millage was in here, I think it was a follow-up from our budget workshop. It's like, what could we do if we went down this path? I mean, that'll obviously be much more conversation in the budget workshop, admin committee, council in April. And Scott, I don't think you said this, but schedule-wise, I mean, we're kind of right where we wanted to be. Evergreen was a little bit late in delivering us, but everything was, all these salary changes are effective for 7/1. So we're absolutely, because that'll be in our budget process anyway, we have to have it approved before 7/1 anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to step on the administration committee's toes on this in any way, but I'm sure we're going to be taking into consideration recent news that some municipalities like Somerville has already increased across the board wages today by $6,000 to be effective July 1st. So it's not, I mean, we're not using old data from Evergreen and just locking into that without taking into consideration what's happening in the marketplace.
No, we've had multiple meetings with them over the last couple of weeks, and we're going to continue to have those meetings going forward. We're using the salary information from, with the adjustments that have just been made at the end of January. I think we're current. We've just also, Folly Beach has just recently published all of their salaries for 2026, so we've got another data point there. But no, we're doing everything we can to keep current, making sure that we're using all possible
Are the
information
meetings
sources.
administration committee meetings
Pardon me?
or singular?
We're having
one-on-one?
meetings, working meetings with the
Working
staff
meetings.
and with the
So there's
Evergreen
no quorum.
staff.
All right.
No quorum.
Any meetings?
No.
None.
No quorum.
Yeah, the next meeting is April 6th of the full admin committee.
Right.
Scott, is that, I think
That
that's
is
right.
correct.
I think that's a full
And we may have even some updates,
Yeah.
to talk about at the April 1st budget meeting. We're going to keep working through it.
Katie, did I miss you?
Oh, no, sorry. I was messing with my hair.
I don't have to do that. And to the admin committee, I would just encourage us, I know we're focused on public safety as we should be, public safety personnel as we should be, but we're having real trouble filling general government jobs as well. And I
We're
just-
looking at the whole
I
portfolio.
know, and just let me make a comment. I mean, I just want to make sure, if we do something with bottom 2 or 3 tiers, we start this wage compression. Right now, we have kind of a nice stair step, not step program, but just a stair step with where things fit. So I know our turnover's been, building departments had a lot, first responders have certainly had a lot. I just want to make sure we take care of all 100-plus employees to get everybody current, if you will. Douglas, anything else from your
Nothing else.
side? Good.
Good.
Jimmy, your next item was 8.2. Ordinance 2026-03, this is second reading. An ordinance to establish decibel limits in the noise ordinance. And this is second reading, so is there a motion? We'll get to discussion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
I'd also like,
Sorry.
I'd also like to make an amendment to the motion with some language changes, and I have a copy here that I'll give you, but to go through them in paragraph B, under nighttime sound, where right after 55 decibels, where it currently reads beyond the property of the noise source, I'd like to take that out and put at the property line of the complainant. Further down, when it talks about the time period, where it says 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. Friday and Saturday, I think that needs to be changed to Friday through Sunday, based on the 7 a.m. morning. And then the third and last change is where it talks down below where, in such a manner as to be plainly audible, and where it currently says on any adjacent street or right-of-way on the, adjacent to any place of public accommodation, I'd like to change that to say, as to be plainly audible on the property of a complainant's place of public accommodation, dwelling, or other residence. So it takes out commercial. Anyway, those are the changes I'd like to be able to make to as an amended ordinance. I make a motion to do that.
Second.
David, second. Thank you. Go ahead,
I
Douglas.
did not track the third change, but I think we have.
I have a copy and I'll
Okay.
give it to you so that you do.
No,
have
because
it.
I knew he had a copy
Okay.
of it.
Question? Go ahead, Jimmy.
You have a question? Just want to make sure I'm clear. Last month, we were talking about this ordinance. Am I correct in stating that if you're in your backyard talking to someone and your neighbor can hear you after 11 p.m., that you're in violation? I mean, any noise whatsoever, or they can hear your television or your stereo, or are you in violation of this ordinance?
If it's above.
Who you asking? You asking?
I'm asking-
I can answer it if you want me to answer
Yeah,
it.
yeah, go ahead.
The way we change it is that you have to complain, so you have to be a complainant. And so wherever your property is, if it measures 55 decibels or above, you'd be in violation. I think it's important, and I know David's a lot more of an expert on this to me than I am, to realize, though, that in the science of sound, if you are at 55 decibels and say you're sitting on the middle of your yard, by the time it goes 30 feet, so which is typically the neighbor's property, it would be 26 decibels. So you would have to be, well into the 70 decibel reading at the middle of your property in order to, at the edge of your property, to be 55 decibels. So I hope that answers, if that
Makes it
answers
more
your questions.
confusing, so I gotta be careful of my noise level in certain areas of my property. So if I'm
Well,
close to the edge of my property, then I have to be quieter than I do in the middle of my property.
So if I could just, and I didn't track the third change, but the way it's currently worded, it is 55 decibels or plainly audible at a house or in a dwelling. So it would be an either or, and I think the way, John, you just described that it would be 55. But I think it is, to answer Jimmy's question, if they could hear it and they complained and it's after hours, that would be a violation.
Right. But this is an unprecedented kind of ordinances on noise across the country, but even in our area. I mean, Mount Pleasant currently has a noise ordinance that has a nighttime at 55. Folly Beach has one at 50, actually. And Hilton Head has one at 55. And if you remember, we've been at this a long time. And our original ordinance that we voted on, actually, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, had a 50 nighttime decibel in there, and it didn't pass because some people didn't think it was strict enough, others felt it was too strict, and for opposing reasons, it didn't pass. I think the intent of this ordinance is to say that we are going to not worry about daytime, at nighttime in the residential districts and areas. We want to have an ordinance that's enforceable, that's been a request of our police department for the last 3 years, that's more objective than subjective, and deals with I'll call it property right, is someone to be able to, at night, where we have working people that still have to get up and go to work, have kids that have to go to school, to be able to go to sleep without hearing noise in your house. And so that's the intent of the ordinance. And I think that other communities have demonstrated that it's effective and not overly burdensome, and is a real balance to still allow people to enjoy their properties.
David?
Yeah, I was going to try to address some of this. When we were talking about the plainly audible and voices and music, you're going to hear that well below 55 dB probably. And even in our current ordinance, if somebody's walking by and you're having a discussion with your neighbor, technically by our current ordinance, you're in violation. So one of the things we're taking out of it is saying it has to be at the complainant's property. So if you and your neighbor are having a conversation with each other, unless the neighbor 3 doors down can still hear it, you're not in violation. Where currently is somebody who's walking by, they could basically report you. I don't think that was the intent, but that's the way it was written. So we did try to clean that up. The 55, I think, what people are getting into is the music and stuff is not what you're going to be trying to measure 55. That would be more for like running power tools in the middle of the night. Because again, the music and voice would be plainly audible well below that 55 limit at a property line. I don't know if that helps explain it, but again, that wasn't the intent of the decibel to address the loud music and yelling and screaming. We're using the plainly audible term to address those. If you can hear it, it's too loud if somebody's complaining, if they can hear it on their property. And again, the rewording on it from saying it has to be at the complainant's property is preventing somebody from walking past your house and calling in a complaint if they can't hear it at their house. So I think we're actually making it a little bit softer in some terms, but we're also giving the police the ability to regulate that stuff that really is not addressed very well in our current ordinance, which is noises other than music.
Chief, I wouldn't mind hearing from you. I haven't To John's point, I know we've been going on this for a couple of years, but I wouldn't mind hearing what your view of this is. Rusty, you want to get a comment in real quick?
Yeah, let me do that before Chief gets up here. Now, if we just have some noise complaints to go out and check out and enforce, I look at the reports we get monthly, we don't have a lot of noise complaints here. I'm totally in favor of the ordinance that we have currently in place with the, it's been in place for a while. I'm not in favor of 55 decibels. I think it's too low. I think anything below 60 is, shouldn't even be considered, and 65 might even be better in my mind if we're going to set a decibel level at all. But I go back to, we have, I think, a quiet island here, and we don't, just as evidenced by the lack of complaints that we get on noise, this is just a solution to me looking for a problem. Mount Pleasant, years ago, when they put their noise ordinance in place, is because they had a lot of noise right there on Shim Creek. And they did that as a calming effect. I don't know how they enforce it. I don't know if they enforce it. Hilton Head, I know nothing about. I understand that Myrtle Beach even backed off of their noise ordinance to some extent because they found it to be unenforceable to some extent. And I still think that there's opportunity here too. If you have a 55 decibel level in place and you have someone stay in a commercial area, Front Beach, hotel, whatever, Seaside Inn, and they're hearing loud music coming from the windjammer or the dinghy, and that guest calls and complains, and the police department's got to respond to that complaint. And the way our ordinance is set up and the way our codes are set up, basically, if they respond to that complaint, this might just be a visitor at the hotel, then that business could end up having some sort of citation against them. Even though we're saying commercial is excluded, I don't think it really is. And the last thing I'll say on that also is I can see people in some areas going around with a decibel meter in their hand around this island. I can honestly see that happening, and I hope to goodness it doesn't. But I'm against it.
Chief, to your comments on how it's currently written, what are we trying to solve, enforceability and such?
So I try to stay neutral on everything and present facts. You guys remember back in the day, it was just the facts, ma'am, just the facts. I'll be the ma'am tonight and give you just the facts. In 2025, we took 195 incident reports total for the year for noise violations. 104 of those were founded, so 53%. To put that in perspective onto how busy we are, I heard that question. In April, or last month in February, we completed 170 incident reports just that month, just to kind of give you that information. I did read this as it's everywhere, so that was one of my concerns that I wanted to kind of mention is it would apply to Front Beach as well. And so some of those most of them, the Windjammer is very, very good about taking care of business, and they kind of handle their stuff, and they close down, and I can't say enough about how good those businesses up there do. They typically do. There are a couple of times where, like here recently, one of the businesses had a radio on and they just kind of forgot. It was not intentional. It was just they left, and I'm sure by the end of the night they were all ready to go home. And we were able to call them and they got it turned off. But that would be something that would be, under this, it would be a violation. Just pointing that out, that it does apply, as I read it, to every part of the island, which could be part of it could be the purpose. But that's kind of, the facts were, that was 2025, and so far in 2026, we've had 26 incident reports as of when I ran this evening, before I came here, and 12 of those were found. It's at 46%, roughly. My math, I went to Lower Richland High School, so I don't know that my math is 100% honest, but that's my quick LR math for you. Are there specific questions y'all have for me that I can kind of answer? But I would say, I know there was a hope that I could give numbers of noise complaints at night versus daytime, and I wish I could have gotten that information really quick for you, and I could not. It's going to take me a little bit of time. I'm going to have to go through each one of those and see what times they came in, so I can give you as close to being factual as I can. I don't want to come up here and mislead. I would say that most of our nighttime calls that we get now, they're typically founded when we get that call at night. We do have several locations on the island. I think when I counted earlier, we should have been around 50 to, anywhere between 50 to 60 just this year alone. Remember, we're doing the 365 strike, but we've got about 50 to 60 spots on there already. Some of those are 2 offenses at one property, but when I counted it earlier, it was between 50 and 60 places that are currently on that 325 list, or 365-day list. There's LR for you.
That's your math coming in again, Chief?
I got a calculator.
I probably need it.
Beth?
Yeah, and Chief, you stay up there because you can, I'm gonna make some statements and maybe you can tell me if I'm off my rocker or they're correct, okay?
Okay.
I do remember when you first came to council and I think the council had a discussion at that point as to whether you had we had an enforceable, measurable ordinance. And as I read the current ordinance, I think it's neither measurable nor enforceable. Because you can show up, somebody makes a complaint, they say it's way loud, and you're like, well, yeah, it probably is, but they can I'm guessing they can tell you, listen, you have nothing to prove that, your ordinance says nothing. So I believe that we need to give police the tools that they need to enforce the laws that we put in. That's number one.
Can Chief respond to that
Yes,
first?
please.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was about to start writing down
Oh,
notes.
sorry. Sorry.
You are 100% correct. In law enforcement, we are not fans of gray areas that are open to subjectiveness. It's simply hard to go to a trial and convict somebody. Now, we do have body camera, and sometimes you can use that body camera, and that's great evidence. I've sat in here before where we've presented a body camera video for a loud noise, and it was very compelling. But we do have people who have challenged our ordinance because of the lack of definition to what is considered a noise violation. And I believe that one's still pending at the last time I looked. So it is complicated to do those things. And I think when we first had that conversation, I equated it to speeding. A lot of times we look at a car in a residential area and we say that car is going way too fast. The reality is cars look fast when they're coming at you. And until we put a radar on it, I can't prove whether they were speeding or they were not speeding. Noise is a little bit different because sometimes if you're throwing a huge house party with drums, I've been to one here where we had a band set up and they're just playing drums and guitars and everything. Clearly, I didn't need a decibel reading for that one. That was obvious when I came around 2 streets and could hear the music playing. But there are times where this might be something that a resident is calling about their neighbor, and when I get there, I may say, I don't think this is unreasonable. You may show up and go, this is absolutely unreasonable, and that is something that makes it complicated for us in that faction.
So,
Ben.
can
Ben,
I
let's
ask
get
just to that
on that.
question? So does this take that question out of it for you?
It does. It
Okay.
does give us a measurable decibel level that we can use in court.
There also were some things set up here, and I would just want to make sure that you're not going to be, the police are not going to be going around our island trying to find where the noise is with a decibel meter. There it is only as a result as a complaint, correct? So that you can address whatever the complaint is, just to put that on the record.
Correct. I would say to that, we respond to anywhere, last month was a low number of 600 calls for service, but we can respond to anywhere from 600 to 1,000 calls for service a month, and we do proactively enforce traffic, but we would rely on people to call about violations for this, and I think the way it's written kind of puts it on the complainant has to say, I am being disturbed, very similar to how we get those calls now. This just gives us the ability to respond to them. We would not proactively go in enforcing this.
And I will say that the way my amended language says it has to be a complaint measured at their property.
I think that means
Finish up and
that
Scott.
we would have the ability to be the complainant, But that would take something pretty extreme for us to be the complainant for something like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
One last thing, and I just wanted to give a shout out to Front Beach and Windjammer. And, you know, the nights I've been there, they have shut down that outdoor stage, go inside. I think they're very respectful of the ordinances that we have on the books. So,
It helps that our businesses are, these guys they're island business owners. You know, they've been here for a long time. They're a part of this community, and they do take active roles, in my opinion, to mitigate any impact on people around them. I am very proud to work with our businesses on Front Beach.
Scott?
Yeah, I'll echo that first with what Bev said, that, you know, we live within earshot of Front Beach and unbelievably cooperative and very, very good about the noise levels. But I just want to make sure I'm clear on, with this change that we're making, or the amendment, I think that basically prohibits somebody from walking around with a decibel. You have to be at your own property. You have to be the complainant. So I think that took that whole variable out of that, correct? Of somebody going, I can't go to somebody else's property and complain about the noise at that property.
It does, and we have thanks to Councilman Cohen, we have a definition of what type of decibel reader you have. The one on your phone won't qualify. We will have one that is calibrated. These will be something that are not currently budgeted, so it'll be an unbudgeted purchase to buy these. They're relatively cheap, between $400 and $600, but they are calibrated, so it's different than the one that somebody might go buy. Even the one I have in my car right now that would not qualify under our statute.
Well, that's going to be an educational opportunity for you then, because there's going to be, everybody's got a DB app.
That's correct, yes, sir.
We'll
Most
get
of
some
our
calls.
jobs should be education. You know, I believe law enforcement is not, our job is to get compliance, and if we can get that through education, then that's the preferred method on anything that we do.
Yeah, Ashley?
Just want to get your thoughts. Do you have any thoughts surrounding the duration of the noise? You know, so we're not just having like a spike, you know, here and there. You know, should it be sustained for a certain number of minutes or whatever before a citation is issued?
I think that'll be something that we definitely have to, when we're training our officers to go through this, if it is a one quick little burst of something, then that clearly was not intended to be a violation, it was an accident. I don't see us writing tickets for that, and that would be part of our training to our staff of, hey, this needs to be something that is an ongoing sound that is emitting from another property before we're writing tickets for it. I mean, things are going to happen. I'm going to drop something at my house. I've got kids, and for like 2 minutes, they hate each other and they beat each other up, and they're very loud when they do that. So don't write me a ticket, please.
It can last a few minutes though, between my kids anyway. But I just think, you know, I think Mount Pleasant had like a 2 minute or 3 minute, like, you know, needed to be sustained noise. So it wasn't like a car door slamming and something like that. So just curious what your thoughts were.
That would be kind of our stance when we're training our personnel, is that we want it to be a consistent sound, not just a one-time thing. So we would, I think as we go through it, we'll kind of develop what that time really looks like. But I would definitely estimate it's got to be something that's carrying on for over a minute before we'd say this person is intentionally just being loud, or maybe unintentionally just being loud, but just being loud.
But, I mean, should we have that in the code?
But
Katie?
doesn't the change to make it, to have a complainant fix that? Because if something happened and it lasted, y'all's response time is awesome, but it's not less than a minute.
No, I wish. You're not that good.
So I don't.
So that is a fair point, because
By the
we
time
would,
you get there.
we would have to hear it. Just because the
Right.
complainant heard it doesn't mean it's a violation. We would actually have to hear it, which is how our ordinance is now. We have to hear it, we have to observe it ourselves. It would be the same way with this one.
Ashley, that cut you off, sorry.
I'm good.
One final comment. So if you talk to all your neighbors, say, I'm gonna play my stereo tonight, and they don't complain, then that's gonna be legal. That's gonna be fine.
Yes, sir. The way I read this ordinance and the amendments that were made, yes, sir.
Okay.
If nobody calls, nothing's happening.
I know we've been talking about this for a long time, and still a lot of questions tonight, even with the changes, and I think the Public Safety Committee has been responsive to feedback from council, but, you know, Chief, I would normally be the first one in line to give you guys tools, but this, I'm kind of where Rusty is. This just feels like we're making a lot about nothing.
Yep.
Personally, but Nicole, do we need?
Vote on the amendment first.
I know, we got the second.
You have to vote on the amended version.
Vote on the amended version.
Well, you're voting on the amendments, and then.
And
if
then
they
the
pass,
original.
You're voting on the amended
Got it,
version.
thank you. So we've got a motion and a second on the amendments.
On the amendments. Is that what we're doing? We're voting on the amendments? Is it-
All,
Could we go, could we go through those three amendments real quick first?
The changes?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and in section B, in the first sentence after 55 dBA, it says beyond the property of the noise source, and we're changing that to at the property line of the complainant. We're changing the time period from 11 PM and 7 AM Friday and Saturday to 11 PM and 7 AM Friday through Sunday. And then where it says, in such a manner as to be plainly audible, it currently reads, on any adjacent street or right-of-way or adjacent to any place of public accommodations, dwelling, or other residence. And we're changing it to be plainly audible on the property of a complainant's place of public accommodations, dwelling, or other residence.
Okay.
so the first vote is on these amendments.
Correct.
And if you can let Nicole grab the vote before you just raise your hand and say, aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Opposed?
Nay.
thank you.
Now, back to the original ordinance 2026-03, an ordinance to establish decimal limits in the noise ordinance. We have a motion and a second.
It's as amended,
As amended.
as amended.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes 5-4.
Thank you. Jimmy, that was it, right? Those two items?
And here are the changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Next item, Douglas will loop back to old business. Item B, update on Army Corps beach project and cleanup.
Yes, we have been in discussions with the Army Corps project manager for that, for the project at Breach Inlet. They pretty quickly requested bids from Aetna, which is the contractor that caused the majority of those problems. They got bids back, and their bids were, they told us in excess of six figures, and not in a, not an expense that they could approve without a lengthy process. They have now gone back to the better of the two contractors, Cottrell. They have just received favorable pricing, and they are negotiating a contract with Cottrell to do that, to complete the cleanup. They haven't given us the time frame for that to happen. Our point of contact is a project manager, but he's not in the procurement side of things. So he thought he would have an update for us as to when that work would be happening on Friday.
Douglas, talk a little bit about what the city's already done from a cleanup standpoint.
Yeah, we very quickly, I think it was two low tides, we had our contractor that does drainage work for us out on the beach. We noticed that the longer the large mass of material sat there, the more it got kind of broken up and dispersed. So we felt like it would be prudent to minimize that, seeing that the Army Corps was, their process just generally takes a while. So we were out there very quickly, did not do a complete cleanup, wanted that to be the business of the Army Corps, but we did, I think, minimize future spread of that material up and down the beach. So, and we've been monitoring it regularly. I will say that there are definitely pockets that the severe surf, when we had that heavy surf, it uncovered at least one, maybe two new pockets that were previously covered by sand. So we're a little bit concerned that there are additional pockets we don't see today that we get a few days of heavy surf that they could be exposed. So we're working to get the Army Corps to address those.
And I think you told me the city removed 80 yards, rough numbers of material.
Yes.
in a couple of low tides?
Yep. Eight full dump trucks and 2 low tides.
Scott?
Just a quick question. I know we've had some inquiries from some residents about potentially testing the material. And is that something, I think a test costs a few $1,000s. I've had them done before. Is that something that we might be able to consider just to alleviate peace of mind on some of this, or?
We did have conversations with the Army Corps about the material, the amount of testing that has already been done on that material. It was fairly extensive. It was done prior to the material going into the cell. They do not allow it to come into the cell without extensive testing. I don't know,
Maybe
that
we can take this
question.
conversation offline, but yeah, I mean, that's something that, it's a very, very small expense item, and I'm just wondering if.
I think
for peace
either
of
way,
mind-
we would like it removed, whether, I think you wouldn't want to not remove it.
No, I would agree, but to get every bit of it, it's just, it's kind of all the way up to 6th Avenue now on the 6th access, and if we don't know what the timing is on that, is that timing like not next week or not next month or before
I
or
will know
after
more
the?
Friday.
Yeah.
I get the sense that it's fairly quick. That I know that the crews that would do it are readily available. They're here, so I'm hoping it will be quick, but certainly been instances with the Army Corps where I hoped it would be quick and it was not. But I think I'll know more Friday.
As to timing and maybe what testing's already been done?
Well, testing's year, I think that's from a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
think that
the
was
current,
2024.
those tests are not that difficult. We can talk about it, yeah, I don't want to hold the meeting up for that, yeah.
So I'm clear, who's paying for the mitigation? Are
The
they
Army
paying?
Corps is,
The Army Corps is
yes.
paying it also?
Well-
We pay and then they reimburse?
No, so the quick work that we did, the two tides we did, the city did that. The city paid for that.
Pretty minimal.
Yeah, I will say they have indicated that they would, actually talking about a dredging project. We have looked for them to repay that amount. They explained that in their federal procurement process, it would be easier for them to basically give us a credit for permission we're gonna be asking for depositing our dredge material. So they're agreeable to taking on the expense, but it may not be a direct check to the city.
Douglas, you can keep going. Update on WDCA escrow agreement?
Yes, we forwarded our draft of the agreement to WDCA. We received back their comments. I will say they were pretty extensive. We have looked at those internally for just things that the city, from a policy standpoint, couldn't deal with. We've just made those comments and given those back to MAC. Went to MAC, they said, hey, there's a lot of policy things here. You will clean those up. So we've done that, given it back to him for comments from a legal standpoint. So we're addressing those comments, and we'll bring those, once we have it in a form that we're comfortable with, the staff, we'll bring them to council and to the community association. So that is work underway.
And are we targeting end of April
Yes.
to finalize at our council
Yes.
meeting? Okay, thank
You know,
you.
Douglas, if we'll be able to see, be great to see what's going on, at least get some interim idea of what the issues are at our facilities meeting.
Yes. Yep, that's our goal.
Easement acquisition update, Sean or Douglas, I know y'all are knee-deep in some in that.
The easements went out last week. They were physically mailed to all of the property owners that we needed easements from. We promptly got a few back, which was good. We had the few eager property owners. We also got a handful of comments back about modifications that owners would expect to be made. We have been in dialogue with MAC about the feasibility of those adjustments. We're working internally with now, we might have a disconnect of, we have easement out, we have some back in executed. If we were to accept changes, how would we kind of keep everybody with the same language in the easement? So we're working through that. I don't think that any of the comments we've received back are insurmountable. They seem like things that we can generally deal with, but we're working through that now. We do have a public meeting with all of the people that we're requesting easements from to drop in the 2nd? Yeah, April 2nd. So we're hoping to get a lot of feedback between now, then, and again, our goal is for us to have these easements back and in a recordable form that gives us time to report that to you at your April 28th meeting to hopefully let you make a decision about progressing work on both ends of the island, really.
Thank you, Douglas. Next item, E, discussion and consideration of Marina dredging project. Douglas just mentioned this. We've been talking about this for quite some time, going it alone or doing with the other HOA groups down there. So go ahead, Douglas. Sorry.
Yes, that is really the question that we're looking to get direction on, is do we want to go at it alone? Appears to be easier for us. If we were to go at it alone, we could avoid the issues of using the Goat Island dredge site. We could also do it, we think, much quicker because we now have the permit in hand. We're kind of ready. Yeah, we're ready to go. Either direction, we need to get permission to use the dredge site, but we actually have permission minus the agreement to use the dredge site. Since the last time we talked about this project, we have had ATM check in with the other property owners. ATM has learned and informed us that the work to repair the Goat Island dredge facility is between $500,000 and $600,000. So I think it's more work than at least I had expected. Those that need to use that facility would obviously be expected to pay that amount or somehow share in that expense. The only other piece of news we've learned is that those owners would like for the city to, they would still very much like to participate with the city to defray mobilization costs if possible.
What's their timing? What's their best guess on timing?
They have been, their permit has now, that was another piece of information I failed to mention, but their permit was actually denied. And so they're in a re-permit posture because it was going under the connector. So they're reapplying, reinstituting their permit request. So
Does that impact timelines on the schedule here, I'm guessing?
say again?
Does that impact the timelines on the schedule here?
Yes, so that is
significantly?
new, that is new news, so they're probably farther out. I think we've been kind of estimating generally about a year, so they're probably even farther out than that.
And Douglas, I think the Public Facilities Committee is recommending to move forward, just for whoever's watching. We've been talking about this for a while. What's on the screen right now, the bottom is what the city's doing in the turquoise color, taking it down to the Army Corps site by the connector. The top is the city's turquoise, and then the other HOA groups in blue that would be dredged around Morgan Creek and such, and the intercoastal.
And aren't there two other components? This is covered by the grant?
Yes. it
And
is
we can
covered.
we can maybe use up to 800,000 for the beach renourishment, so that can move too. So
That's
those are
correct.
two other pieces of information. Yeah.
That's correct. I don't know, just to circle back to the idea that the property owners are still very interested in sharing the cost of mobilization. I don't know if that group has those estimates of mobilization, and I think if they did have that, they would see that it would not be an enormous savings. Less than $30,000, we think that they would benefit if we were to wait for them to do this project.
Katie?
So, yeah, the cost, the benefit of waiting is not very large. And the risk, especially with the grants, if you're now saying it's going to be over a year or two, that we could lose those grants, correct?
I don't know, they're actually earmarks. We have had them, I think, for now 2 years. I don't know that we've ever had threat of losing an earmark. They're easier on us than FEMA is the one that just kills us with the deadline.
It'd be
So I
better
don't
to
know
But
that,
still, it would be better to use them and,
It
while
would.
we got them, and
absolutely. I mean, this is a,
bird in the hand.
yeah, I think that captures it, that this has been a project kind of on our drawing board for 2 years. We're holding state money to do it. It's just another thing that, for us to continue to kind of push work out, starts to have the effect of piling stuff up for us.
And Douglas, would we, if this passes tonight, would this be a fall project, most likely for us?
At the earliest.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still have, I think it's either 6 or 8 months, 5 to 7 months to work through with the Army Corps, getting permission to use either site.
Okay. So again, the motion is coming out of the public facilities to go ahead and move forward as a standalone of the city. Is there a motion?
Motion to move forward with the
Second.
standalone project.
Other questions, discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, new business. Item 6A, discussion of extending Carter Beach Reach Shuttle Project. Jimmy, you had asked to have this on.
Yeah. So we have our Carter meeting tomorrow. We have a monthly meeting at the COG, and spent some discussion with Mount Pleasant and Carter about extending beach reach service to Fridays this year, which would provide an additional 15 days from the end of May to the 1st of September. And on page 80 of your packet is breakdown of the cost. The staff's projection of the cost without Friday service was $38,307. And projection with the Friday service is $54,861. I will point out that ridership has improved every year. I think this is our 4th year we've offered this, and there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm from Mount Pleasant. I told them that I would give them a report at tomorrow's Carter meeting, what Isle Palm City Council thought about this.
So is Carter voting yes or no tomorrow to do it? Or are they
Well,
looking
they're ready to
for?
go forward, but they're not going to go forward
Without.
unless they get our approval.
How does the split work, Jimmy?
It's Mount Pleasant and us and Carter funded. It's all, it's a third, isn't it?
I was thinking it was 50-50 with the town of Mount Pleasant, but it might be a third.
Because our piece is about 10-ish
Yeah,
each year. I mean,
historically,
this 38,000's roughly what it's been the
So
last
it's
few
about
years.
18
I don't
months.
know how, they're much better projections than I am, but with the cost of fuel, especially diesel now, when this was done a month ago, we're in a completely different world, so I don't know. I just wanted to know if y'all were in favor of it or not.
So our cost of this would be 18 of the increased,
Adding the Friday.
yeah. Do you know how many people rode that car the last year? I remember,
was-
but it was,
It was like, it was close to 1,000.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere in the 900 to 1,000 range.
It's just another way to get a few more cars off the road. And the people that take it are very, it's very popular. But, it's not where we want it to be, that's for sure. We thought we'd add another day and see if it might increase some ridership.
Do we know
Beth.
where Mount Pleasant is on this? Have they already?
Well, I've been working with David Brownstein. He's the chairman of this subcommittee, the Beach Reach Subcommittee, and as a Carter representative, and he and I, and he's very enthusiastic about it. So I told him I would give them an answer tomorrow so we can go forward. Because it would start like Memorial Day weekend.
But, I don't know, Beth, to your question, I mean, he's, like Jimmy, he's one council member of, a big number, so.
Jimmy, do you have the stats on the ridership? I mean, so 1,000 is
It was
that?
like 1,000, it was, yeah, I wanted to get those numbers today, but I wanted to call Andrea at the COG, but I ran out of time. But it's improved significantly every year. The first year it wasn't very good, about 300 people, but it's gone up every single year. They do a really good ad campaign with it, Carter does, and they do a good job with PR. We're just trying to increase the ridership.
Jimmy, Carter's budget runs the same as every other municipality, right? July, when they kick off the new year. Do we have time to get a few more stats on this thing and maybe some projections as to what we think Friday ridership would look like? I mean, seems to me like you have your meeting tomorrow, in my mind, you'd say that we certainly are interested in knowing more about it, but we just need to have a little more information before we make a decision to jump in on an additional day.
And that information would be projection for increased ridership on Friday?
Yes.
And I think the best question, past ridership and projected, if we added a day.
I think they've kept the count for the last few years, so
Yeah.
we should be able to get the count for the last several years.
Does Folly do it? No?
Folly does not do it because of traffic concerns, and Sullivan's Island doesn't do it. Sullivan's Island was offered, but David said that, that drawbridge, when that opens, it would just be a nightmare for them.
I think
We used to do it years ago, and it made a loop and went to the front beach, and then it went all the way to the back gate of Wild Dunes. And it had some ridership from hospitality workers in Wild Dunes. But that was, at least 12 years ago. This new beach resurfaces, I think we're in the 4th year, maybe 5th.
Yeah, and Katie, your CARTA has a line that goes out Folly Road that stops at James Island, some shopping center, Harris Teeter, somewhere in there. So not all the way out to the beach.
So, I'll just tell them that they want more stats, and if they can't wait, then we just turn it down, or what? Or are you still in favor of using Carter again this year as a general rule, whether the service increases or not?
I think definitely, from my view.
I am.
Need to have the weekends, definitely.
I don't hear any naysayers, so I'm saying,
I mean, to Rusty's point, I mean, they're on the same schedule as we are from a budget timing standpoint.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think more information back, even if we have it next week at the budget workshop.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
at the meeting tomorrow.
Now, what might be ideal is if Mount Pleasant DOT decided to put a center lane there and let Carter go up that center lane and deliver people to and from the beach a lot quicker without being caught in traffic. You'd really see that ridership go up.
That's Scope Creek,
ride it.
Rusty.
That's true, we have had
Last
that
weekend.
conversation at Carter, Rusty. We
Yeah.
Definitely have.
Was there any talk about increasing like advertisement for it?
Town center is kind of the driver along with Explore Charleston.
Yeah.
So they do quite a bit with hotels across the way. Sorry, Jim, I didn't mean to jump in.
No, that's fine. I've got my answer, so, I'm spending enough time on it. So we can get some more stats. If not, we're definitely, unless I hear anything to the negative now, then I'm gonna say we're definitely on board with the standard ridership we have provided in the standard service we provided in the past. And would like more information on Friday. Projected ridership, is that correct?
Yes.
And past ridership.
Past ridership, correct.
Are we voting on this?
No.
Or are we-
No.
All right, next item, consideration of purchase of 1,100 toter garbage cans. You see the budgeted item there. This is phase 2 of 3, I think, if I remember right. So we're getting it in this fiscal year, so it's under budget, it's in the budget. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any questions?
We just say we appreciate the Public Works staff for assembling and delivering these cans. That's the reason it's under budget, is they had a service to do that, but they've taken that on board themselves to save the city money, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
And again, this is phase 2, and for people that haven't been following this story, this is all about getting to a side loader automated truck at some point, and this will take us to 2/3 of the island with the new cans. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Discussion and consideration of surf instructors and locations. One is IOP surf lessons at 26th Avenue, Salt Marsh Surf at 21st Avenue, Share the Stoke at 34th Avenue, and Soul Surfers Surf Camp at 27th Avenue. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I'm sure this is coming out of the committee with an approval. I'm not sure which committee this runs through, but David, question?
Again, being new, is this a renewal of what we've done in the past?
They have to apply each year.
Yeah,
And we
okay,
approve it
this
at one
is-
time.
There's no new ones in here, it's just.
think
There are
the
no new
numbers-
ones, they're slightly different locations.
Yeah.
I think because of the renourishment, that there have previously been some on the ends, I'm sorry, on just the south end.
Yeah.
So they're all, there are none there this year, and I think that's the reason. So slightly different locations.
That was it.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, boards and commission reports. You've got council committee reports attached, Board of Zoning Appeals, no meeting in March. Planning Commission minutes are attached. Accommodation Tax Advisory Committee minutes are attached. Environmental Advisory Committee minutes are attached. And our new Beach Preservation Committee minutes are attached. Is there anything a chairperson would like to add from their committee minutes that we haven't already touched on? A lot of it's already come through, but. All right, next item is ordinance resolution petitions. Second reading, ordinance 2026-01, an ordinance creating a standing Ways and Means Committee. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Questions, comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Point of order, I have a question. This to me is really important. And I think time is of the essence on this because we're coming in the middle of budget season, and since we are gonna have the Ways and Means, is there a chance we can suspend the rules of order and I'd make a motion to elect a chair and vice chair now? And the reason would be that they could be meeting with staff and getting an agenda up for our first Ways and Means Committee.
I'd second that.
I'm not sure what the urgency is, but.
Yeah, I think you'd have to have an exigent circumstance.
Yeah, we'd have to be noticed on the agenda 24 hours in advance
Okay.
unless there's an emergency circumstance.
Yeah. Pretty sure that doesn't fall into this, but.
Does not.
Okay.
When's the first meeting scheduled?
Second Tuesday of April,
Okay.
11th, 12th, somewhere in there. Nicole, did we vote on that?
You did.
Yes.
You
Thank
just voted, and then she went out.
Got it. No first reading items. Next is resolutions and proclamation. Proclamation 2026-01 for Arbor Day. If you make a motion, if you can add waive reading, that would be great.
Make a motion to approve, waive the reading.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next item, executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70A1 to discuss 2025 annual performance review of city administrator and an associated merit increase. Upon returning to open session, council may vote on any matter related to executive session. Is there a motion?
Motion to go into executive session?
I make a motion?
Yeah. Got a
Second.
motion? Second, somewhere. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Off record at 7:37.
In case
Yeah,
anybody's interested,
Janice and Mac.
the CARTA board meeting every month lasts 1 hour. Mike?